Welcome back, everyone. I'm This is Rico Limbaugh, and I'm bringing you a story today that's probably one of the biggest stories of not just this month, but of this year. And if hindsight is 2020, then unfortunately we know where the future is going for all of us. This is Tatiana Schlossberg. She's a Kennedy, which that translates into American royalty, descended from our former president that was assassinated, John F. Kennedy. His Right now, our HHS secretary is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., RFK Jr. RFK Jr. warned us all. He warned everyone to stay away from the vaccine. Do not take the vaccine. I'm going to bring on my co-host, Arthur, in a moment, but let's go ahead and pull this story together for you, shall we?
The Kennedy family is in mourning. John F. Kennedy's granddaughter, Tatiana Schlossberg, daughter of Caroline Kennedy and husband Edwin Schlossberg, has died after a battle with cancer.
This does not happen to American royalty, ever. In the United States, our royalty lives to be in their 80s. But there's something different now than there was 4 years ago that's happening inside of the bodies, apparently, of everyone. My theories initially were this was solely a bioweapon to take out one particular group. I want to make an amendment. For those of you who have been following me in my research, and you have been, following my Instagram and the Safe and Effective podcast on Instagram, if you've been following my posts, I'm going to amend it now. This was a bioweapon, but it wasn't. Yes, it was deliberately targeted towards the most vaccine hesitant community in the country, the Black community. But they gave it to Americans alike. And they're bringing in illegals and foreigners from other countries who did not take the injection. It appears their goal is to replace us. When you're 60% of the population and they tell you that a quarter of the people that take it from your group might be gone, then those are what you might consider acceptable losses that could be worse. But when you're only 13% of the population, well, you can't really afford to take those kind of losses. And that's my current amendment. She was only 35 years old. 35. And she was hit with turbo cancer. We know the source of this cancer. Her own uncle begged her and her entire family not to take it. And out of jealousy and envy, they turned on him. And now she's probably just the first of their relatives that are going to pay the price for turning on RFK Jr.
According to a statement posted to Instagram December 30th by her family. The message reads, "Our beautiful Tatiana passed away this morning. She will always be in our hearts." Tatiana, an environmental journalist, had revealed in an essay published in The New Yorker on November 22nd that she was dying from myeloid leukemia. She received the terminal diagnosis.
Leukemia. Again, leukemia. I have 4 people right now back in California, all dying from leukemia as we speak. My aunt just told me on Christmas. Truth is, we don't really understand cancer. They could tell you it's leukemia, but it could be something completely different and exotic. And the closest diagnosis they can give to explain something unknown away could be the diagnosis of leukemia. See, that's the problem with the medical practice. A lot of things are done in the dark. There's no transparency, and the option to question specialists or physicians is not on the table, because the truth is, even they don't know. they lean on labs and pharmaceutical companies to diagnose and prescribe treatment for people. They don't have, doctors don't come up with their own. A lot of people don't understand that. Most people don't understand how deep in the darkness as a society we are when it comes to healthcare. But at one point in time, we were in the light. This is some of the most see, when the celebrities are certain people, you don't really notice. You don't notice. There's a lot of vaccine injured that look like this as of now, but they haven't been dying like the other group that was targeted. This means everyone is on the menu, even women. Typically, estrogen slows the progress of what was in the injection. However, testosterone amplifies it, which is why you see more so men dying from this. Also, that was what the booster shot is. It's testosterone. Whatever that creature is they injected into you, it synthesizes it. So the booster shot boosts the growth and the size. Then the creature will eventually cause you to have organ damage and you'll pass away. And they'll blame it on a clot, but really it's clogs. This thing is growing in your arteries. It's growing and expanding inside your body. If your body doesn't die from rejecting this parasite, well, then your blood won't be able to flow, which is why embalmers and morticians are not able to embalm people anymore because they're pulling this creature out of people's veins ever since 2021. You know, I remember when RFK Jr. went and even spoke to the Nation of Islam in 2020, and he begged the head of the Nation of Islam, Louis Farrakhan, to implore his people to not take it. He implored everyone. I remember, we're gonna talk to Arthur in a second. I remember when Dale Bigtree and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. won one of the biggest lawsuits in American history against the pharmaceutical companies. And the threshold to lose for them was extremely small. See, what they did was they took to court that said, hey, out of 135 childhood vaccines that are administered, and this is the thing, we don't even know how they divide. How do they choose which kids in which hospitals get which of the 135? Nobody knows. How do they divide up territory? Nobody knows. We'll get to that. They brought to the courts and said, hey, none of these have been safety tested in 40 years. We have 135 different childhood vaccines. We don't know what's in them. We don't even know if vaccines even exist. But we're going to prove that they've never been safety tested. The pharmaceutical company said that's not true. The judge says, okay, this is what we'll do. Show me one in 40 years, 135 different approved vaccines for children, many given on the day of birth to a perfect human just born directly from source, from God himself, sent to earth. A beautiful, perfect human. They're giving injections into on the day of birth. The judge said, show me one safety test. Not even one could be produced. And R.F. Kennedy and Dale Bigtree won one of the largest judgments in American history. The reason you didn't hear about it is because not even 2 days later, Dale Bigtree and RFK Jr., our current Health and Human Services Secretary, were both nuked from orbit on the internet. Remember what they did to Trump? Well, before they did it to Trump, they did it to Alex Jones. Between Trump and Alex Jones, they did it to RFK Jr. and Dale Bigtree. Remove them from the internet so you would never know the outcome. There was a lot of things that RFK Jr. said that the public did not hear, but his family heard him loud and clear. They rejected him, and it's going to cost them everything. It's going to cost us all. I'm at 5 relatives that I know of, just in my immediate family so far, that have passed, that took it. Unfortunately, they were the 5 that laughed at me when I told them not to. Our family split. The Democrats wanted to wear masks and go take experimental injections. The conservatives decided that we were America first, and you come and force it in me if you want me to have it. Come take it. Come give it to me. And our family divided up on political lines after that. And we've never seen each other since. It's been over 4 years. We're happy with our decisions that we made. The other side of my family is not, because, well, now they have to look at us and explain what happened to our other relatives, all men who within 2 months of taking the injections mysteriously and suddenly passed away. You know, remember when they used to make fun of parents over the years, and you would say, you know, my kid had a sudden infant death syndrome. People just kind of ignored it. And the parents would be like, well, no, I took my kid in for a wellness visit. You guys know what they do at the wellness visit, right? And then if the kid wasn't nonverbal 2 days later, they passed away. Because we ignored all that data, you know, there was men that made documentaries like the movie Vaxxed. We ignored all the data that was set in front of us. We ignored all the evidence. And now we're having, it's I guess it's like AIDS too, adult instant death syndrome. You know, now we have adults dying the same way those kids were dying. And we're all dealing with the same manufacturers. And we all, and a lot of you trusted the same felon. Everyone wants to talk about Trump being a 30-time felon. Do you know how many felonies Pfizer's been convicted of? I'll let Arthur tell you in a second.
After a blood test conducted following the May 2024 birth of her and husband George Moran's daughter, whose name has not been made public, showed she had an elevated white blood cell count. Tatiana, who also shares 3-year-old son Edwin with George, wrote that she spent 5 weeks in the hospital and underwent chemotherapy and 2 bone marrow transplants with stem cells donated by her sister Rose and by an anonymous donor she knew only to be a man in his 20s from the Pacific Northwest. She was also part of 2 immunotherapy clinical trials. Over the past decade, Tatiana pursued science and climate journalism, published many articles about issues such as ocean conservation, climate change, and global warming in outlets such as the New York Times and in her own newsletter, News from a Changing Planet.
The fact that she believes in and bought into the climate change lies and the green news scam means she was a raging liberal. And there was nothing anybody could have done to stop her from taking any unnecessary and untested experimental drugs and wearing masks and believing in everything Fauci said out of his lying midget mouth. There was nothing anybody could have done to stop it. But they tried. RFK Jr. tried. And the fact that his own family turned on him, and now they're all paying the price, well, it's sad. Let's take a listen.
I've known Bobby my whole life. We grew up together. It's no surprise that he keeps birds of prey as pets, because Bobby himself is a predator. He lacks any relevant government, financial, management, or medical experience. His views on vaccines are dangerous and willfully misinformed.
That's amazing for her to bring up his views on vaccines, because she literally allowed her daughter to be euthanized with a vaccine. Now, this is 11 months ago. 11 months ago. Look how she's talking about her own flesh and blood, because she chose political lines over familial lines. And this is an extremely informed man who has literally put in years of work. He has the credentials, but he's also a researcher. Trusting people's credentials over researchers, it just doesn't make any sense. People don't understand a lot of credentials come with corruption, because once you spend all that money to get the credentials so that you can pay back those loans it took for you to receive them, you're going to have to do what you have to do and use those credentials to make money. So somebody can essentially pay you to agree with anything they say, because you're going to need the money to afford the credentials in the first place. That's why you can't really trust the credentials, that inherently they're corrupt at their core. For her to call her own relative a predator is sick. But RFK Jr. is doing just fine. He's HHS secretary. He's healthy and alive. But the rest of the Kennedys that turned on him, they went out and took the vax just to spite him. And now we're watching them all fall on their own sword. But this should be heartbreaking, not just for me, but for you listening, because even if you didn't take it, a lot of people around you did, even if they don't talk about it anymore. You know, it's unfortunate. I got into this because I knew a lot of my favorite people on the internet that read the news to me and talk to me were going to be passing away soon. And many of them have already begun passing away. Scott Adams is one of my heroes, and I'm watching him in his deathbed. Many more are sick, and this turbo cancer is coming for all of them. Today, it was a guy that I follow, Anton Daniels, and I noticed he was talking about the vaccine. He didn't mention that if he did it or not. Typically, when people don't want to talk out against it, it's because they went through with it. The problem is some of our greatest content creators and people who we lean on for information, there's going to be a vacuum of information soon. So I'm here to fill those gaps. And hopefully I can make you guys proud. Those of you who are tuning to tune in, I'm Rico Limbaugh. If you can, come over to the YouTube channel. I appreciate all your support. I have my Cash App there. I do appreciate the donations as well. But this is more so of me building up a small media organization. A media organization that's not going to be like those prior. Again, I don't know if Anton took it or not. I hope he did not. But if he did, there's going to be an opening. And that's why I'm here. I saw this coming, so I had to throw my hat in the ring. So, I mean, it's just unfortunate. But we're going to go over the Kennedys and how bad and how much they lied on RFK Jr., and we're going to look at the results of that. Well, Tatiana's one of the first.
Bobby preys on the desperation of parents of sick children, vaccinating his own kids while building a following hypocritically discouraging other parents from vaccinating theirs. His constant denigration of our healthcare system and the conspiratorial half-truths he's told about vaccines, including in connection with Samoa's deadly 2019 outbreak of measles, have cost lives. I've known Bobby my whole life. We grew up together. It's no surprise that he keeps birds of prey as pets, because Bobby himself is a predator. He lacks any.
It's a shame. It's a shame on, look at this.
As a practicing doctor and
and so these are the people from his own family that wanted to stop him from, that were speaking out against him, his own relatives.
This morning, a Kennedy family feud in the national spotlight.
Hi, I'm Jack Schlossberg, and I have something to say.
Overnight, President John F. Kennedy's grandson, Jack Schlossberg, speaking out in an Instagram video criticizing his controversial relative, presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
He's trading in on Camelot, celebrity, conspiracy theories, and conflict for personal gain and fame.
Schlossberg, the son of President Kennedy's daughter Caroline, endorsing Joe Biden for president and becoming the latest family member to distance themselves from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. RFK Jr. announced he's running for president earlier this year.
I am going to take back this country with your help.
The Democrat is the nephew of President Kennedy and the son of former Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, assassinated while running for president in 1968.
He's, even with his whole family against him due to jealousy and envy, he still did the right thing for the rest of us. And now we're looking at the results and the consequences of his family ignoring his warnings and ignoring his guidance.
Tatiana Schlossberg, JFK's 35-year-old granddaughter and daughter of Caroline Kennedy, has died.
We're getting sad news coming into the News Nation newsroom right now.
Sad news breaking moments ago. Tatiana Schlossberg has died.
Her family shared this photo saying, "Our beautiful Tatiana passed away this morning. She will always be in our hearts."
You know, it's kind of hard to when you realize people had a choice on what to do to themselves. It's really hard to be sympathetic for people like myself. That is, she had a relative that literally have been speaking out and explaining the dangers of these injections for upwards of 20 years. They chose to throw all of that information away through the jealousy and envy, and literally not even 1 year after he becomes HHX secretary, his grandniece, Tatiana, passed away. But you know, it's crazy. This video of her brother turning on him is going to be infamous and forever.
But for many, he's best known for his anti-vaccine stances and support of conspiracy theories and misinformation.
Turns out those anti-vaccine stances were correct. So let me show you why I don't necessarily feel too sorry for the Kennedys, because they brought this on themselves. You got to think about it. They have, by turning on RFK Jr., they not only reignited the Kennedy curse, but they threw 92 octane gasoline on top of it. There's no running from this, and they all happily complied just to spite RFK Jr. Do you understand what I'm saying? They literally gambled with the lives of their entire gene pool, their entire lineage. They gambled on it. They gambled with their entire gene pool, their entire family, the rest of their lineage. They betted. They threw it on the craps table, and they bet it all on red. RFK was black. They bet against RFK. It landed on black. RFK Jr. is alive and well, and he's high up in our administration, and his family has now been poisoned, and one by one, they will be gone. Let's talk to Arthur. I want to bring him in on this. Hey, Arthur, are you there?
Absolutely, I'm here. Just let me know how you'd like to proceed, and I'll get right on it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I was going to play some lengthy videos, but what I want you to do is this. I want you to tell me some of the vitriol and some of the nasty things that our current HHS secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., I want you to give me a list of some of the horrible things that his own family said about him so that he wouldn't be elected as president or HHS secretary. And let's start with there.
So, in summary, I found that various members of the Kennedy family did indeed publicly criticize Robert F. Kennedy Jr. over the years. For example, during his presidential bid and other political moves, some of his own siblings and other relatives openly called his views dangerous or perilous and endorsed opposing candidates to distance themselves from him. In short, there was a very public family rift, and they made clear statements against his candidacy. So if you're looking for examples of the kind of criticism his family voiced, that's the general context.
What I want you to do, Arthur, is tell me what his family said about him in regards to his research and his opinions on vaccines.
Certainly. In short, members of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s own family did publicly criticize him specifically for his views on vaccines. They stated that his positions on vaccines were misleading and dangerous, and they distanced themselves from his public health statements. In fact, several of his relatives openly expressed that they disagreed with his stance and urged the public not to follow his advice on that topic. So in essence, the family was quite vocal in their opposition to his vaccine-related opinions.
Let me ask you a question. Is that normal for family members of a person who's not even an elected politician to come out and publicly slam their relative who's running for office just out of the blue? I mean, if they don't like you, why wouldn't they just keep their opinions to themselves?
In general, it's not common for family members to publicly criticize a relative who's running for office, especially if they're not elected yet. Most families, even if they have internal disagreements, tend to keep those disagreements private or at least not air them in a very public manner. However, in high-profile political families like the Kennedys, there can be unique dynamics. The Kennedys are a very public political dynasty with a long history in American politics, and internal disagreements sometimes become public because their family is so closely watched by the media. In RFK Jr.'s case, his views on certain controversial topics like vaccines were significant enough that his relatives felt compelled to publicly distance themselves. While it's unusual, it's not entirely unheard of in prominent political families.
Gotcha. Okay, let's shift this over. Can you tell me about the spike in leukemia diagnosis in adults that have occurred between 2021 and today in compared to the previous 10 years?
I wasn't able to retrieve any recent data about a spike in leukemia diagnoses in adults from 2021 to the present. Right now, I don't have specific statistics or comparisons for that period. If you have a particular source or document with that information, feel free to share it, and I'll take a look.
Can you talk to me about cancer rates in general over the past 5 years in compared to the past 15 years?
In simple terms, what we see is that overall cancer rates over the past 5 years have remained relatively steady, or have shown only modest changes compared to the previous decade. There's no dramatic spike or sudden surge in overall cancer incidence that stands out in the data. Essentially, the trends have been fairly consistent with the patterns observed in earlier years.
Can you talk to me about turbo cancer?
Certainly. The term turbo cancer isn't a formal medical term used in oncology or mainstream medical literature. Instead, it's a phrase that has surfaced in some informal discussions, particularly in contexts where people are talking about very aggressive or rapidly progressing cancers. Essentially, when someone uses the term turbo cancer, they're generally referring to a cancer that appears to develop or spread unusually quickly. It's important to note that this isn't a recognized clinical category, and the concept of turbo cancer isn't backed by scientific evidence or formal studies. It tends to be more of a colloquial or anecdotal expression rather than a medical term.
Can you tell me when you noticed the term turbo cancer being used more frequently? When did that begin?
The term turbo cancer began to emerge more frequently in informal discussions in certain online communities in the early 2020s. It seems to have gained some traction around or after the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, roughly from 2021 on, particularly in spaces where people were discussing concerns about rapid onset cancers. It's important to reiterate that this is not a recognized medical term, it's more of a layman's phrase that surfaced in certain circles during that period.
I understand that you're going to be limited on what you can say. I understand that you have safeguards in place because you don't want to say the wrong stuff. So I completely understand it. Listen, I do appreciate your feedback. Let's get back to the Kennedys. The woman that died today, Tatiana Schlossberg, how is she related to him exactly? What is her term? Is she his great niece, his grand niece, his cousin, or how is she, what's their relation?
Absolutely, I can clarify that for you. Tatiana Schlossberg was Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s niece.
Okay.
She was the
Okay, she's the daughter of Caroline Kennedy, who is, I believe that's his, is that his sister?
Yes, that's correct. Caroline Kennedy is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s sister, so that makes Tatiana Schlossberg his niece. In other words, Tatiana was the granddaughter of President John F. Kennedy and the niece of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Thank you, Arthur. Thank you. That'll be all for now. So this is so they're not even just distant relative. This is his niece. This is his baby girl niece. And even his own sister turned against him. It didn't, you guys, if you're in the comments right now, or if you're listening to my voice, do you understand what I'm saying? It wasn't like my family. My family split over this issue. Half didn't do it. Half of my family will survive. What if nobody in your family descended and everyone went along with it? Do you understand what this means for the Kennedy family? To basically to prove to him that he's wrong and to spite him, They took everybody in their family and they did these injections. Do you know what this means? None I for you. Hello, right-wing Rico. I never took any vaccines and never will. God bless you. I had two sisters that did. One now has congestive heart failure and had to have a pacemaker. She also has chronic kidney disease and liver issues. I have a brother that nobody knows about. We're only a year and a half apart. He just started having terrible liver issues. He's sick. He bragged about taking it a few years ago, and he thought I was a crazy Trump supporting lunatic. Even though I'm one of the smartest, most logical, and most successful people any of my family has ever met. You know, according to my history, of course, this isn't me just, speaking on myself. But they thought that I was wrong when I'm the one with the results. And now he's reporting liver disease. He's reporting liver issues, and he's not giving us all the details because just like Kennedy's niece, they're suffering in silence right now because we told them so, and they don't want us to know we were right. So they're doing this in silence because we're going to tell them you did this to yourself, and I fucking warned you. So it's not just, and then it's not just him. A really good friend of mine who I play video games with, he's 29 years old. He has an appointment scheduled, I believe, in 2 weeks, and I was going to go visit him in the hospital. He's also getting a pacemaker installed at 29 years old. And he came to me and he said, you know what, you were right. And it is because of that. The nurses confirmed it with me. We talked about it. Do you know, I remember when pacemakers went in the hearts of men in their 70s and 80s, not in their 20s. This is not just going to cut people's lifespans in half, but it's also going to turn them into loyal customers of Big Pharma. There was a woman I saw, her and the father of her child both took the injection and they were able to conceive, but the baby won't wake up. And the baby was born in cardiac arrest. I'm not sure how they had both diagnoses, but they're trying to keep her alive. It's not the only one. As a species, we're in trouble. But this is not the kind of trouble that you can do a course correct to fix. The trouble's already done. It's trouble that's coming in the future. We don't necessarily know how our government's going to react when the mass die off of people is actually noticed and talked about mainstream. See, I'm talking about it now on the internet with you, but I'm alone. There will be prominent people in the future that are going to want to spin this, and they might even pretend there's something brand new going on that's killing people, a new virus, a new disease, when really it's all side effects of what we did that summer back in 2021. And when I say we, I'm speaking in French. I didn't do it. You did. So, but I hope your family made better decisions than the Kennedys did. And I hope you guys are prepared for a future where there's going to be less people. Right now in China, the Chinese citizens are reporting that they feel like the country only has 500 million people in it. But in 2019, it was recorded at 1.9 billion, 1.5 billion. There's a billion people missing in China. I remember when they were boarding up apartments and they were burning people in plastic bags who were alive at these crematoriums. I remember that. I shared the videos. When they would literally board up people's homes with their doors of their apartments with nails, and they would starve them to death. See, when I tell people I live in the best country on earth, while people in these other countries, like even my friends in Germany were having things like this happen to them, and they were boarding up my friends who lived in Melbourne, Australia. And that's an island. So you couldn't get in or out. You were stuck there. You were marooned. There was nothing you can do if you were in Australia. While all my friends and people I know around the world were being terrorized and literally their asses handed to them and their rights stripped away, I was actually stuck in here in the United States because my flight back to Germany was canceled on March 15th of 2020. And I was marooned. And I was going to parties and clubs and drinking and flying on airplanes and hanging out in Vegas while my friends were getting the boot shoved up their asses in different parts of the world. So when I talk about how much of a patriot I am and American exceptionalism and the difference between us and everyone else, it's because I saw what happens. I saw what happened in places that I used to think were just as good as us. I remember living in Europe, and I was saying everybody's free. Everyone has freedom of speech. Everybody can do everything. And I was wrong. I was foolish. I was naive. And I have since then changed my outlook and my stance, and my loyalty lies not only in my country, but in my Constitution. See, I knew even back then that the Constitution stood for me. So I stand for the Constitution. People that didn't believe in the Constitution, they were able to get pressured with threats of losing their job to having an experimental medical procedure upon them without their consent. They felt like they had to do it. That's illegal. And I knew that if, I told people, if someone tries to force you, you can sue them and you'll be able to get your money back and then some. Let them fire you. A lot of people didn't get fired. Some people did, but a lot of people didn't because even these companies knew what they were doing was illegal. You had to believe in the Constitution for it to believe in you, because without you, it's just a piece of paper. What gives it strength is the men and women standing behind it with guns, willing to protect it, willing to enforce it. And that's where I come in. This is a big hit for RFK Jr. I mean, this is huge. And I feel so sorry for him, because the people that turned against him, they won't have a chance to mend their relationship because they won't be here anymore, which is unfortunate. God help us all and our families and our friends who took it. My 26-year-old granddaughter told me to get the vax, so I wouldn't get sick and die. I told her no. I told all my family members. My 2 children and all 6 grandchildren did not take it. And if they did, good, thank God. Some of us had foresight. Some of us didn't. Only certain people are going to survive. I mean, think about it. This was the largest propaganda campaign in human history. Goebbels himself would have cried if he would have seen the amount of, because he would have been so proud. We've never seen anything like this on a worldwide scale, not since 9/11, when they tried their hardest to convince us that a man on dialysis in a cave thousands of miles away was able to orchestrate the largest terrorist attack in American history. I don't think anybody buys that anymore. But this right here, when they were telling you what you have to go do or you're going to get sick and die, but yet the homeless are not dying, well, then what are you talking about? And the fact that you couldn't ask questions or people would get mad at you was a red flag. It just lets you know, in this world that we're going into, you're going to have to be strong. You're going to have to be willing to fight. You're going to need that American spirit. See, I have it in me. I physically fought people over wearing masks, over asking me my personal medical history. There's HIPAA laws. You don't ask me about my vaccine status. You don't ask me about injections. You don't ask me what I did. That's not your place. And if you really think it's your place, well, as an American, I'm going to have to show you that you're wrong. And I did. I went to jail. I got locked up over masks. I wasn't playing about that either. That's why I had to relocate from the West Coast all the way to Texas. I had to find freedom. I moved to 5 different states before I finally made Houston my home. And I refused to leave Texas or get on another airplane until the vax and until the mask mandate was lifted. I did the right thing and I did what I could. So I get on here and I share this story and I share my information because I want you guys to know there will be others on the other side who are going to be with us. We are survivors, and they're going to have to do something to come after the rest of us because, let's just, do you know how I know there's a God? Because there are good nurses, there are good doctors out there. There was a nurse that was arrested. They found out she gave out thousands of saline injections, and she swapped out the vials of the fake vaccine with saline. They found her. She had been doing it for over a year. But this is where God comes in. There were nurses that did this in different countries. Poland, Hungary, nurses in Germany, famously, several thousand people that she wouldn't give it out to. She gave them saline. But this is the thing. These nurses kept speaking about a dream. They talked about how they had a dream where an angel came to them and told them to do this. There were several doctors that also said something came to them in a dream and told them to do this. We don't know how many nurses didn't get caught who did this, who swapped out vials in New York, California, Florida. There are different hospitals in different areas. There are some nurses because that was being considered a crime. And they didn't speak about it. But we got to consider that there are more people that are going to survive what happened than we think. There is a God. But that also means there's a devil. And that means that monsters are real. Evil is real. There are those who wish to extinguish you and your family. They wish you to be sick. They wish to poison you. They want you to be like RFK and your niece that's less than half your age, doesn't even make it to see 36, 37 years old. They don't want your kids to grow. Yeah. We got to be more grateful to those people who committed fraud. I had a friend that was making fake vaccine passports in LA. And even though he was making fake vaccine passports, his girlfriend went out and took it. She's been sick ever since. And he thinks that she's shedding on him in bed because his immune system is getting weaker over time. But it's hard to talk about it when somebody went out behind your back and did something that you told them not to do, but you guys are married. You're cohabitating in the same house. My aunt famously in our family, she married a man and he didn't want to listen. He went out and took it. She hasn't slept or had sex with him ever since. Not to be in my family's business, but it's as a precaution. Because even she knew in her vast amount of wisdom that it was a horrible idea, but he did not trust his wife. And he's had complications ever since. When our friends and family are passing away around us in the coming months, we've already lost a lot of people behind us. They're not telling you, for one thing, they're not talking about the death on the news. You want to hear about the death? Go to YouTube and type in excess deaths. There's a Dr. John Campbell. He'll give you the numbers. I'm one of the only people that reports on the numbers that he gives. He's in the UK. No one else wants to talk about it. Before the scamdemic or when it first started, they're telling you, oh, these people are dying. These people were already sick. They would show you morbidly obese people who had hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol that were passing away per the usual, but they were for some reason blaming this 5'4", 85-year-old man who was 500 pounds. They're blaming his death on a novel new virus. Sir, when your BMI is that high, you don't need a virus to die. You don't need anything. All you need is 2 steps. You walk up 2 flights of stairs, you're done. but now they want to be silent about death. Facebook is the new obituary. That's where I'm keeping score. That's where I saw this article. That's where I'm seeing my friends who are laying their relatives down, and they're just saying they're just dying all of a sudden. Cancer, blood clots, aneurysms, just, sudden death. People in their 20s and 30s. Tatiana Schlossberg, American royalty, 35 years old. Obviously, her whole family is going to be fully vaxxed because, well, her mother spoke out against her brother's views on vaccines. So she's going to do the exact opposite to the extreme to prove him wrong. And all she did was prove him right. But what does him being right, what good does that do him if all of his loved ones are dead? It doesn't, these videos are not to make fun of people or to put anyone down or to say that, and to remind you of your bad decision. These videos are to prepare you for tomorrow. You don't need to be in shock when all this comes out publicly, when the mainstream news hits it, when you see it on TV. Yeah, you're watching this guy named Rico Limbaugh. You're watching him talk about it on the interwebs. Woo. Yeah, and do me a favor. If you're watching it on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. I do this content for you. And I do a lot of these videos per day. So I do a lot of entertaining stuff, but this is just something that's extremely important that I have to talk about. And a lot of my content is about the events of 2020 through 2026. I'm never going to let you guys forget what they did to us and what they took away from us. I will never forget. I'm from Los Angeles. I used to live in downtown LA when the lockdown hit. I saw it all. I watched everything and I kept detailed records. I'm never going to let you guys forget either. I'm never going to forget. You're never going to forget. So do me a favor, please follow my channel, keep up with my content. If you want to, you guys can, donate to the channel. It's not required. I appreciate just the likes. Seeing hundreds of people in here listening to me talk about this topic is amazing. And for those who might be new to tuning in, this is what we're talking about. We lost royalty today, American royalty. We lost a Kennedy today, but we didn't lose her just randomly. Her own family did this to her. And they single-handedly, they reignited the Kennedy curse and they put gasoline on top of it because they all had to do it to prove that their relative, RFK Jr., was a quack. They all had to go out and show their loyalty to the party and to their views, and they all had to go out and take the vax. And these are the results. This is only 11 months into him being HHS secretary, and look at how fast his family's already starting to disintegrate. Take a look.
Tatiana Schlossberg, JFK's 35-year-old granddaughter and daughter of Caroline Kennedy, has died.
We're getting sad news coming into the News Nation newsroom right now.
Some sad news breaking moments ago. Tatiana Schlossberg has died.
Her family shared this photo saying, "Our beautiful Tatiana passed away this morning. She will always be in our hearts."
You know what, Pam, thank you for reposting the stream. Erica, thank you very much for the Cash App donation. This is my biggest one today, $20. Thank you guys. This does help this goes towards my research, goes towards my channel, and so that I can keep making content. Again, I'm a small channel. I'm a new guy. I'm just filming in one of my extra rooms at my house. But I'm on a mission. And if you guys can listen to me, you can kind of guess what kind of mission I'm on. None also says, I told a security guard I was not masking up. My faith does not end where his fear starts, period. And I actually went to prison. I didn't go to prison. I was arrested and went to jail for the day because a security guard was trying to force me to put on a mask. And I refused. And when I told him that, I said, well, my president doesn't wear a mask, because this was in 2020. This is when Trump famously ripped the mask off outside in the White House in the window. Literally stopped all the fear that everybody had. He removed it. You guys don't remember how amazing Trump was when this all first started. Remember, people keep talking about the vaccine. What about the 8-9 months prior to the vaccine being introduced back in the middle to the end of 2020, when they said, oh my God, Trump has COVID. And he walked into the White House and he was still alive and he took off his mask and he came out and he said, listen, we have something called therapeutics. We have this, we have that. He offered the American public everything and the kitchen sink. Everything. He wanted you to do everything except take an experimental injection that they were fast tracking into it, not even to production, to administering, because it was already produced. It had been around for 15 years. That injection wasn't invented under warp speed. Do you know how long it would take to make 1 billion vials that are packaged up solutions that you're going to inject into some people? To make 1 billion on average will take about 13 years to synthesize 1 billion in factories all over the world. It'll take 13 years when we did the numbers. If you had factories in different continents and everything, to make 1 billion vials, 10 to 13 years. They had 8 billion on standby. We don't know where this injection even comes from. And we did videos prior that gave people who watched it nightmares about when Dr. Carrie Madej and Dr. Frank over in Austria, when they looked at the ingredients and discarded Vax vials from Pfizer, they found things in there that we don't have the technology to create. And they found something in it that was alive. And this thing, this creature that was floating around, you had to see it with a microscope, but after a few weeks, you could see it with the naked eye. That's the reason why they had to freeze the vax before they injected into you, because whatever was in it had to defrost and hatch inside of you. That's why they keep finding these things growing in people and they're pulling it out. That's what's causing your organ damage. That's what's causing the inflammation on different parts of the body. It's not spike protein. That's just a novel term for something that can't really explain publicly because it's too scary to think about. I talked about this in 2021 when Dr. Carrie Madej first came out, and the doctor in Austria, well, he speaks German. I was translating it for people who wanted to hear it. And they nuked my pages off of Instagram when I was just talking about it on live. But now we have a new HHS secretary. I mean, anything goes, so I guess we can talk about it. The future that we're walking into, it's an unknown. Because they were planning on more people being dead, but due to fraud from fake vaccine passports and saline injections, we have a lot of people that are luckily going to survive. So this campaign where they're going to say, oh my God, there's a new something that's happening, but they're trying to explain away the side effects of what happened in 2021. It's not going to work because there's going to be too many people like myself who survive who can talk you off the ledge. I'm not thinking you're going to jump off a cliff. I'm thinking you're going to jump into a medical bed or jump into another parking lot where you drive through and let somebody inject you wearing a mask and black Air Force Ones. I'm not going to let that happen to you again. I'm not going to let them pressure you. I'm not going to let them scare you. Personally, people like me were just not born with the spirit of fear, because death is not something that we're afraid of, because life is what's hard. Death is easy. There's no bills in death. You don't got to buy food, water. You don't got to pay rent. You don't got to pay insurance. You don't got to pay a phone bill when you're dead. Life is hard. Death is easy. So death isn't anything to fear. So scaring me with threats of death. Oh, Rico, if you don't go out and take these injections and wear a mask, you're going to die. Well, then I'm dead. Well, what about my grandma? If you don't wear this on your face and you don't let me inject you, then you killed grandma. I'm like, well, then shit, kiss granny goodbye, because I'm not letting you inject me with shit. You can fight me. We can fight. And if you lose, if you win, you do whatever you want to me. But you're going to have to kill me. You have to stick by your convictions. Not only you have to believe in what you say, you have to live by it. Talk is cheap nowadays. All these politicians gave you lip service. They didn't take the injections. They took hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. But they didn't give that to you. They banned it for you. And to see that they didn't even give mercy to the Kennedys, I was thinking the high up people got with the, the hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, like the politicians, like some of the NBA players, because those are the front-facing people in the media that need to inspire you to go out and do it yourself. But if you start seeing stuff happening to them, whoa, whoa, whoa. But now I'm starting to rethink it. I'm thinking that it's just maybe time delayed for certain people, because I did not see, I knew the Kennedys were doing the jab, but to see one of them already died already, this is incredibly insane. Insane. Yes, really, Foxy Frank, that's what happened. That was my story. I got the arrest records, and it's crazy. I remember I seen the body cam footage because I had gotten into a fight with 2 security guards. They couldn't take me down, obviously. I'm a security guard size, so good luck with that. But when we get outside, I'm not fighting back, but the police just happened to be outside, and I was sitting there and I was like, these goddamn Democrats. I was talking big shit about Democrats and this, and I'm watching them, and my lawyer's like, so I take it you're not a Kamala supporter. And what's crazy is that because the vax mandates were illegal themselves, and so were the mask mandates, when I was going to start trial for this case because they were trying to give me assault charges. And when it came down to what was this over, well, they were illegally trying to force a mask on my body against my will. And the security guards admitted to it, because he was like, hey, you got to, because this is how dumb it was in Arizona. See, in California, everything was closed, right? But in Arizona, all the clubs were open, but there was a caveat. You had to be seated down at the club. So if you had a section, you had to sit down. You couldn't you couldn't just go into the club and walk to the bar. You had to buy a section, and you had to be sitting down the entire time. If you sit down, you can take off your mask. But if you want to stand up to go to the bathroom, you have to wear you had to put on a mask. It was the most idiotic and retarded time in recorded history. If you wanted to go, you had to, and I was like, well, what if you're in a wheelchair? Like, you got to wear, like, how does this work? Like, where's the logic? Is the virus a certain height? What if you're short? Like, what does elevation fucking matter? Why are you doing this? So I didn't want to play the game. I had rented out other clubs and I could do whatever I want. And then riding in Ubers, they wanted you to put on a mask. So I would order Uber Black, pay the extra money. And then they'll be like, you do whatever you want because you're paying extra. I'm like, perfect. So I paid the premium so I could live free because I love being an American. And I get to this club, it wasn't a club where I had any control or any pull. I'm walking to the bathroom real quick after I paid for my bottle, my section, my girlfriend sitting down. And he stops me like, hey, you got to put on your mask. I was like, well, I'm just going to the bathroom. He's like, no, you got to put it on if you want to walk to the bathroom. And I was like, bro, my president doesn't wear a mask. I didn't wear one when I walked in here. You're wearing a mask. You're a little Democrat. And the other security guard's definitely a demo. I'm just not going to wear it. Well, then you can't go to the bathroom. And I was like, well, who's going to stop me? He was like, me. I was like, you sure? And I was like, well, how about this? If you want me to wear a mask so bad, put it on me. Here goes my face. Put it on me. Do you know this little monkey literally tried to put a fucking mask on my face? He took the bait. And they say, you play stupid games, you're going to win a dumbass prize. And anyway, when he was trying to pursue charges or whatever, it came out that this was over the mask. And once that came up in court, they threw out the case. Because not only am I going to be exonerated, but I have grounds to sue the club for even trying to enforce this policy on me, which is unconstitutional and illegal. Throughout the case. But I knew that was going to happen because I believe in the Constitution. I stand for the Constitution. I knew it stood for me as well. And these are things we all have to keep in mind going forward, because eventually, if the Democrats ever win, there's a lot of people talking about they love the immigrants, they love the gays, they like the child mutilation, whatever. If the Democrats are able to pull off the fraud and win, we're going to go right back into, you give it 6 months after a Democrat's in power, we're back into lockdowns. We're back. A lot of people enjoyed the lockdowns because everything was free, because it was like a communist utopia temporarily. They don't have to pay rent, don't have to pay bills, they can just fuck around, they don't have to be responsible. Too many people like that. That's why I moved to Texas, where people were used to still paying bills and being responsible. I had to get off the West Coast. I want you guys to also follow my channel so that we can figure out where we need to be to avoid any of the incoming problems that are going to arise if they try to do another lockdown, another scamdemic. And they did try. If Kamala would have won, God forbid, we would have been not only at war, but back in a permanent lockdown. They were already lining up everything. Don't you remember a year ago today, before Trump took office? Remember all the fear, all the diseases they're talking about? They're on TikTok right now. This is how ridiculous it is. People are on TikTok right now. Man, I'm sniffling a lot. I coughed. When I swallow, it feels like I'm swallowing knives. I think there's a new virus going around. I was like, you mean you're fucking sick? You idiot. It's the dead of winter. Every winter since the first day humans were put here on this fucking rock, we get sick at the same time of year every year. It means you're alive. It means your immune system's going to get stronger when you get better. You should be grateful to still be sick. You should be grateful to still be getting sick, because at least you know you're alive. See, you got to be worried when you don't get sick anymore. That means you're dead, because you can't get sick. You're not even breathing. People are driving me crazy. They're looking for any excuse to go back to taking experimental injections and wearing masks. I mean, people are just, they're insane. But you're not. You're better than that. Yeah, it is snake. Well, yeah, it is snake venom. Daniel says, I was in Nevada during COVID. Yeah, I was in Vegas too. And the company was offering all employees a $500 bonus on our checks, and we didn't have to wear a mask at work if we got the shot. Instantly, I knew something was up. Absolutely. You want to know when was like one of the first major red flags that I remember from the lockdown? Was this right here. Let's see here. De Blasio Shake Shack for vaccine. Let's see here. Right here.
When you get vaccinated? I got vaccinated. You're saying I could get this? Eat delicious fries? Wait a minute. But there's also a burger element to this?
Do you see this demonic, evil fucking shit? Now, mind you, this is the same vaccine that today has a black label on it because of how many people it's killed thus far. And the night is young. The rest of these people are also dying as well. It just hasn't happened yet, but it's on its way. This is only 4 years ago. He was literally telling people, if you can get some free salty ass greasy fries and a disgusting burger if you let them perform an irreversible experimental medical procedure on your person. This is when I knew we were no longer in Kansas.
Let me check with Bill Neathart. Is it too early in the day to eat a burger? No. This can be breakfast? Okay. I want you to look at this and think about, again, some people love hamburgers, some don't. Really want to respect all ways of life. But if this is appealing to you, just think of this when you think of vaccination. Vaccination. I'm getting a very good feeling about vaccination right this moment. Free fries when you get vaccinated.
Who remembers this? Anybody in the chat, who remembers this? Who remembers how sick of a time this was in our history? Matter of fact, what about this crazy part right here. New York was like, I would say, I thought California was ground zero. This is the former mayor of New York. And who was the other mayor of New York? And his brother was running. Well, his brother was kicked off of CNN. And what's their last name? Let me see here. The what's the name of the brother? Let me ask Arthur. Hey Arthur, what's the name of the former mayor of New York that was?
I'm sorry, but I'm having trouble responding right now. Please wait a bit and try again.
Hey Arthur, what's the name of the old mayor of New York? And he was running for governor, but he was kicked out for sexual harassment. Cuomo. Yep. Thank you, Darapolio. Never mind. Cuomo. Do you guys remember this video of Cuomo? Do you remember this one? Let's see here if we can find it. Shall we? I know it's on X. Let's see here. Let me turn Arthur off. We're going to need him again in a second. Cuomo, black woman, do not ask what is in the shot. This was one of the most, if I can find this video, it was insane. And I'm trying to find this one video. I know it was Cuomo, Governor Cuomo. Let's see here. He was with this black woman. And she says, I'm not going to ask what's in the injection. I'm not going to ask who made the injection. I'm just going to roll up my sleeve and I'm just going to do whatever they tell. And I'm sitting here like, what the fuck are we watching? What are we? These people are sick. And I'm trying to find that video, but it was definitely Cuomo. And he was outside with these people. I mean, it's literally one of the craziest videos. They said that you're being racist if you ask questions about the vaccine. What does that even mean? And why is that even matter? Like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make sense. So yeah, now they keep talking to me about Cuomo running. Let's see here. Cuomo promoting the COVID vaccine. Let's see here. Maybe we can find him promoting it. Yeah, let's see here. Let's see here. That's 2024. Yeah, this would have been in 2020 or 2021 actually. 2021. This is one of the trippiest videos ever. I'm just trying to find it. And you got to go to X because they scrub a lot of this stuff or they remove it. But New York was an insane place. It seems like they wanted to hit the heaviest populated parts of our country, New York and California. Yeah, I don't see it. I don't know. Where is it at? Yeah, it's not coming up. I mean, there was just tons. I'm going to find the video and I'm going to bring it up. Or, man, this was a good video. Let's see here. Yeah, that's the other Cuomo. Remember, he lied about being in quarantine and they caught him riding his bike because he was in like a fender bender. And all these people on television are just liars and trash. That's why we have independent people who are like myself. And we're here now to fill those voids. So you don't have to go back to mainstream media. We think people like me, we talk about everything that you're going to see on the news, except we're not being paid by certain foreign countries to not talk about certain things. I don't have an editor. I don't have a chief. I don't have someone that can fire me if I say the wrong thing or bring up the wrong topic. And then think about it. One of you could call in right now. Like I just found out how to use this feature yesterday. There's a lot of you that have stuff to say about the vaccine and about the scamdemic. This is what I'm going to do. Look, I just posted the link on StreamYard. You can click that link right now, and you can come up and you can talk to me about your experience during the lockdown, the scamdemic, and you can talk to me about any of your relatives or what you have seen happen to those who complied with the mandate and took the vaccine. So think about it. This is a live, unscripted, unedited show. This is raw. I'm just a regular person talking to you. You guys are sending me Cash App donations. I greatly appreciate it. I don't know how to connect my Cash App so you guys can see it and I can, tell you thank you immediately. But I definitely do appreciate everything, no matter how small it is. I'm just grateful in general. But you can come, with a show like this, you can actually come up and you can speak to me and you can talk to the audience and you can talk about your experience and what you saw and what you remember. It was only 4 years ago. That's not that long. You should have a feature to allow the chat room to speak live. Well, that's why I just posted that link. So that way you guys can just hit the link and then you can come in. Yeah, because what you're talking about, Twitter Spaces. And I like Twitter Spaces sometimes. The only problem is it's so many people talking sometimes at once, like Clubhouse, that things might get lost. So when another person comes up and you guys want to have 2 or 3 people and we can all just take turns talking so that the listeners can digest the information, that makes way more sense. So, but yeah, I mean, I definitely don't mind doing Twitter Spaces. That's why I'm telling people, come over to YouTube, follow me on Rumble, follow me on, TikTok, The Single Boyfriend. You can come over here. I'm Rico Limbaugh on YouTube. You can literally, we can put together a Twitter Spaces and we can have these conversations, not just about the vaccine, but about everything that's happening in the world around us. Because everything from my calculation is just leading to death. It's not just this vaccine that's killing people now. It's literally, I mean, think about it. They're pushing the LGTB agenda. I know another person that just committed suicide because that was his lifestyle. One day you just wake up and you're alone and you realize you're not going to have kids, you're not going to have wife. If you meet somebody over a certain age and you ask them what makes them happy, what are they living for? We all say the same thing. Our children, our wives, our husbands. Past a certain point as a human, if you don't have a significant other, you don't have children, then what is life? What did you do? Even in the good book, it tells you to be fruitful and multiply. You're supposed to have a family. When you realize that you're never going to have a family, you become a nihilist and you become a Democrat activist. And then eventually one day you just self-delete. That's also on the rise as well. There's just a lot of these different things that are, for a lot of it's being not targeted at me, it's targeted towards kids. They want kids to self-delete and harm themselves as well. And it's, and it seems like we're not doing enough to avoid it. Other countries are putting measures in place to avoid it, but it seems like us Americans, we're just cruising right into this future, this bleak, horrible future. So, but listen, I mean, I put the link out there. You guys anybody can, come up here and join and talk to me. But I know this isn't something that's easy for people to talk about. I mean, it's because you got to think about the mortality of it all. You got to talk about people who are still alive, but they're going to be dying soon. That's a scary thought. So most people don't want to think about it. I got a friend of mine right now that's sick, and he was blaming his illness on the fact that maybe his elevator in his building it goes up and down too fast. Nothing to do with the experimental injection he took a couple years ago. It's probably the speed of the elevator. Yeah, that's it. I think the word is cognitive dissonance would be a good way to describe it. But there's really nothing you can do about it now. It's kind of just too late. I feel sorry for the Kennedys and for what they're about to have happen to their family. And I really feel sorry for RFK Jr. because he's a good man. And he's going to be one of the only survivors of the Kennedy curse. But in this time, it's not just, from the universe. This is a curse that they literally chose to do to themselves.
and recent comments claiming that COVID-19 was, quote, targeted to attack Caucasians and Black people, and that the Jewish and Chinese people are most immune. Kennedy and Democrat.
So it turns out that that was also correct. Apparently, Americans, whether you're Black or you're white, we have elevated testosterone levels higher than other people on Earth. It's just something about our genetics. Maybe it's our food. It could be our culture, whatever. We're bigger people here in the United States. They noticed that the creature, once injected into people that were Asian or Jewish, it didn't grow at all, or it grew at very slow speeds because of the lower testosterone levels, but elevated estrogen levels in the men. And you would think that, you know, Asian men, Jewish men, they also can pass for women when they do the, you know, little gender procedures, or they want to do cross-dressing. That's how you have the lady boys thing, and that also agenda. They can pass easier because of the fact that they have elevated estrogen, even though they're men. But in other people around the world that have elevated testosterone levels and lower estrogen levels, well, the shot's killing us, but it's specifically not killing them. And it appears that is by design. You got to think about it. We're at war. We're at war with people who are much weaker than us. Are they going to just fight us head on? No. They're going to outsmart us. And they're going to convince us to take out ourselves or to inject ourselves with poison so that we can't fight. It's fifth generational warfare. And this is what it looks like.
It's clashing at a hearing yesterday.
Slandering me incorrectly, you're saying is dishonest.
As more members of the Kennedy family push back. Kerry Kennedy saying in a statement, "I strongly condemn my brother's deplorable and untruthful remarks." And his
about the fucking vaccine. So you're going to side with a pharmaceutical company? How much did they pay you? Was it enough for the life of your granddaughter, of your niece? I hope so. But see, you took the injection too. Was it worth your life? Money isn't everything. Life is precious. Oh, man, this is just troubling to hear, because I remember when watching this the day this report came out, and everyone was against RFK Jr. And it turns out 2 years later, he was 100% correct. And now everyone has egg on their face. They have to eat their own words, and they have to just wait to die.
Nephew, former Congressman Joe Kennedy, calling the comments hurtful and wrong. And now Jack Schlossberg, the 30-year-old attorney, has spoken about his famous family on Today.
Well, I mean, I'm inspired by my family's legacy of public service. It's something that is I'm very proud of.
Now he says he wants to protect that legacy, speaking out against RFK Jr. and not pulling any punches.
I have no idea why anyone thinks he should be president.
So you shit on your own uncle, and now you're going to just eat shit. Your baby sister just ate shit because of the bullshit you guys were pushing against your own family member who was attempting to not just save you, but to save the world. You literally were condemning a hero. There was no way you've known that man your whole life, and then just all of a sudden you turn on him. That just shows you how pitiful and disloyal you were from the beginning as a family, as a whole, that you can't trust any of those people. But there's a lot of us that have family members you can't trust. So I guess the Kennedys aren't immune. I guess they're not really loyalty, or they're not any better than anybody else. I guess that's the truth of the matter. It's just hard. It hits hard for me because, again, I just found out I have four people I know back in California, a part of the family, all sick and dying from leukemia. So that's why when they said Tatiana Schlossberg leukemia, and then I'm seeing all the turbo cancer and all, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, this is happening. It's really everything we said was going to happen. It's happening in real time. And I don't see enough being done to get us out of the way of disaster. But you know what? You live and you learn, and then you get loves, right? We're going to have to move on. We can't live in the past. These people are gone. The beautiful thing is we can mourn them while they're alive right now. If you know somebody that took the shot, call them. Tell them you love them. Tell them you miss them. Tell them you're sorry. And they're going to ask you, what are you sorry for? Say just whatever you want me to be sorry for, but I just want to tell you that I love you. I'm going to get off of here right now, and I'm going to make some of those calls because I know people that took it, and I know what's coming for them. If Tatiana Schlossberg is toast, then there's no hope for anybody. If the Kennedys are being wiped and they were in favor of this agenda, then everybody's on the table. I was wrong. They're going after everybody. Like and subscribe. Do me a favor, share the video if you can. Come to YouTube, like the channel. Also like the video. And I want to say thank you guys so much for the Cash Apps. I really do appreciate it. The single boyfriend or the single BF on Cash App. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'm going to go eat a couple of tacos, check on my dogs because they're probably in there being bad. And then I'll be back on with another live, and I'll say 17 minutes. So I appreciate you guys. Remember, America first, America only.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.